Hello everyone, we're having to do this live because my editor keeps kicking me out. Whenever I make a cut, it kicks me out. So some kind of problem is happening with my editor right now. And so I'm gonna do a update for tomorrow right here, right now. So I may not be able to pay too much attention to chat, but I wanna get into some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Nvidia, AMD, and Meta. I'm gonna look over at GameStop for a second, then we'll get into volatility in the dollar. But the main thing I wanted to get at today is I really feel like there could be some kind of trap tomorrow, and so do not be fooled. And the reason for that is because if we head up too fast, well, then the dollar is saying there could be a trap. But if we head down early on in the day, well, the trend is really adding up to, and where this daily expected move is saying that could be a trap as well. So we're going to pay attention to that as we go forward. Now, one thing I wanted to point out, I'm going to zoom back out to a 2 hour before we get into the daily expected moves and talk about these type of things. I wanted to talk about this point over here because it looks very, very similar to what we are seeing right now. A massive cup, a massive handle that ends up breaking through and going to the upside and remaining overbought for a little bit of time. So this is really the type of look that I'm paying attention to, and look how that played out last time. I believe we get good news from the CPI. We actually could see something like that, but maybe a trap to get some kind of pullback would take place instead. So we'll pay attention to this. I wanted to click over to a 30-minute and talk about this area, by the way, for this look, because I wanted to show how the 30-minute can remain overbought for quite some time. It remains overbought for quite some time in this area, and we're about here, so that would make some sense to remain overbought for quite some time, and then that ends up being a little rug pull. You notice at the end of the day, it ends up being a trap, and we'll pay attention to the signals we paid attention to last time this happened when we called this area up here as some kind of trap as that crossed over with those divergences very, very significant here on the RSI to complete that triple divergence. So let's pull back over into the current price action and talk about what could happen tomorrow. Now, for the time being, you really want to get those daily expected moves on your chart. That would be 581.78 to the upside and 572.50 to the downside. Now, I'm very glad that we were paying attention to the fact that these short time frames could buy us back up, right? We could save ourselves and buy some more time here because those macro signals looked really bad, but we trade like water on this channel, meaning we are willing to totally flip the script the next day if we see us buy some time. So what we want to pay attention to here is we've gotten the breakout, and if we get a bad reaction to CPI, well, we need to pay attention to those daily expected moves because the downside move is right by this breakout. If you look at this little mini breakout thing here, well, that would be a daily expected move, but the upside daily expected move sitting by the weekly expected move, and we know that dollar is climbing, so that's something that I would pay close attention to, just to know, and that's why I showed you how the RSI can remain overbought for quite some time. We're just seeing a blip, and the last time we had a look similar to this big cup, similar to this big handle, we saw that get overbought for quite some time, so that is something I'd be paying attention to, be willing to go through some kind of short squeeze, because we've been talking about a mini squeeze with the signal that we've seen on volatility. So this is what I'm paying attention to going into tomorrow. As we look at a 2 hour, this is going to be your bearish thing. If the trend is going to reverse here, then we might see something crazy tomorrow. And something crazy would mean we do not hold up at this move right here. We don't hold up at the bottom side weekly expected move. Remember, this is our 68% zone. So 68% of the time we're going to land in here, 32% chance to see something crazy. So if this is not just some quick 30-minute pullback in the morning, and this actually crosses down that MACD on the 2 hour, a bigger time frame, and we go negative here, that is something I would really pay attention to, okay? We are going to be paying attention for that rigged behavior as the dollar is climbing and climbing and climbing, and we'll keep mentioning that we're going to talk about the dollar towards the end of this video, so stick around with us and make sure to give a like to this video. It is a live video, so please like. My editor really messing up tonight. So as we go over to the Qs, you're going to see a similar scenario, and this would be really, really good even for the Qs as far as structure goes. If we really look at this, even on a 2 hour, right, we can do it on a 2 hour to start. We do have a weekly expected move right by the daily expected move, 498.14 to the upside. We're outside of the yearly expected move for 2024, and the downside downside expected move is going to be 488.16 to the downside. Now, the key thing about this, look where it is. It is right at that breakout area to go up to this level. And if this wanted to be a cup and handle, right, we talked about creating a bunch of cup and handles to keep remaining healthy. That's really what you want to see stocks doing. And you don't want that to curl down too far, because what would you be confirming? You'd be confirming a potential double top. If you take out this low, you're going into that negative trend. So that's something to pay attention to going into tomorrow. But on a 30-minute, you can really see how if we've built up to this area, it's a very good thing. And if that 30-minute does pull down to something like 488.16, well, that's right where we broke out from, right? We consolidated and broke through that level. We broke through this high right here. So that is what I really want to pay attention to. Notice that the MACD is extremely positive for the SPY and the Qs. So even if we do pull down, the most likely thing to happen is just a pullback that can continue that trend. And that's what we need to pay attention to for the SPY and the Qs going into tomorrow. As we switch over to something like Apple, something key here is, look at this. I mean, we reacted to the point that we were talking about. We talked about Apple for a couple of days. We talked about the fact that it built back up. And now if you're able to get through 225.84, what could you do? Well, you could head up to that gap resistance right in this area. And wouldn't this be a pretty handle to get in this area, as that MACD is pretty damn positive? So that is something I'm paying attention to. Obviously, we showed you that little thing from the past on the SPY to explain how the 30-minute can remain overbought for quite some time. So we'll see what's going to happen with this. If we get a false breakout or something like that, the dollar is still climbing, so we have to be ready to react. Now, the 2-hour is still relatively close to the center line, so pretty much a lot of these charts are going to be, hey, the 30-minute can continue higher. Maybe we get a 30-minute pullback first, but if that 30-minute pullback turns into the 2-hour crossing, you might be crossing through this little trend here, and that might send you into negative territory again, and maybe that moves a little bit bigger with some distribution going on there. As we flip over to something like Tesla, this is what we were paying attention to, the 2-hour curling up. It curled right back down. That's why we manage trades, right? That's why we manage our risk. This right here on the 30-minute said, hey, I am crossing over right here at a price point of 243.64-ish. And from there on, you're saying there's no way for positivity. But we're really bottling up here for Tesla. We're really coiling up. And you notice we're still holding the head and shoulders we were talking about. We're just kind of getting a retest maybe as we broke out through that little trend between the highs. And we're trying to get a little retest. So something very, very key for Tesla is going to be, can that 30-minute cross up into positive territory for a 30-minute early on in the day? What that would do is pretty much immediately curl up a 2-hour as well. Have to be aware that a 2-hour lower high is still the most likely thing in this area, pretty much until you're able to turn up a 4-hour chart for Tesla. So be aware of those things. You still can head lower, by the way. You're in negative territory, by the way, for the 2-hour and the 30-minute. So downside is still the most likely option for something like Tesla, weirdly enough. But a lot can change with CPI. A lot is riding on CPI tomorrow. I think we're going to get some traps. We do have some decent implied volatility. As we go into Amazon, this was the trade setup that we put on Patreon, and we ended up making a 2-hour divergence as well, which is very, very good. It means a bigger time frame divergence is fantastic to have with the 30-minute divergence, and we'll show you guys that 30-minute divergence now, right? We'll show you that real quick. As that 30-minute divergence was building, we paid close attention to this, right? Slightly up here, because that one was more significant than the previous one. You see how the previous one was flat, the next one's up. That's when you want to pay attention. Significance of divergence matters. It's something we mentioned in the course. Both of those are down in the description. But for now, this is great because this was a great trade setup. It took a little bit of time to play out, but that's okay. And we're reacting to the area where we said this is the first area you need to watch out, our little gray zone. So this is where I really want to pay attention. If we react higher just a little bit, we could build some structure to actually head higher before we actually see the upward move. Now, we do get CPI, so if there's a good reaction, we could just gap above this zone, maybe test inside of it, and then start to head higher. So the 2-hour is turning up. It's still negative. The 30 minutes positive, so we'd be looking for that 30-minute pullback, but that 2-hour can still be taking over with that divergence. What we really want to pay attention to here is, are we going to get that lower high because we're still deep in negative territory, or are we going to turn up the daily scale now for something like Amazon? So we'll be watching out tomorrow. As we go over into something like Nvidia, that daily is pointing up and up and up. You're getting a breakout. A retest would be nice here. Look how far away we are from the moving averages. And look where they're sitting. They're sitting right at 125, which we talked about 125, and we didn't make the best structure on a 30-minute to break through something like 125, right? We went up to this area. This was kind of where I wanted to get to, that 125 level. We got there, made the tiniest little handle, and then we get really excited. We're outside of a weekly expected move. This was a great scalp play that I heard a few people taking, playing it down to the weekly expected move, because you can use it as support when you get above it. But for now, we want to see, is that 30-minute going to roll up? Because it is still positive, which means you're in a positive trend, which means that could go take out this high, go make a new one. If that's crazy and doesn't confirm divergence, then you might continue to see something crazy from something like Nvidia. But if you make a divergence, you're outside of a weekly move. The dollar is elevated as well, so be cautious if you end up going up early on in the day. Be aware that if that rolls down, it is a form of weakness for the 2 hour, and the 2 hour could pull down, right? So that could cause the 2 hour to pull down. We're not necessarily saying, hey, this is going to crash to oblivion. This could pull down that 2 hour down to retest something like 125, that breakout area, and then we could continue to head up over time. I'm looking for a 2 hour divergence before this thing really starts to fall. AMD, the reason you got to pay attention to this is because it's confirmed 2 hour divergence. That's why we want to pay attention to it. We have confirmed 2 hour divergence. Now, can we buy more time on this 30-minute? This 30-minute is kind of level here, and it could just be a flag to head lower, but notice how close it is to the center line. So if that does cross, positivity, testing the high, going to make a new one, that can happen. Watch out if that starts to fade and cross back down, though, by the end of the week, because that can tell us, hey, this 2 hour is not able to cross back up. You need this 2 hour to cross back up to see further positivity. This signal right here is pointing towards, hey, the daily scale can start to see weakness here, and maybe AMD does go through a daily pullback before earnings. That's what I'd be paying attention to there. For Meta, we want to also pay attention to a daily crossing down for that pullback. This thing's been going up for quite some time. It's overbought, and it looks like a pullback could go a long way before earnings, but maybe we'll get a trap tomorrow first. So I want to look at the 30-minute, because this looks really similar to AMD. It has a 2 hour divergence, and it has a 30-minute really close to the center line. The only difference is this 30-minute was able to curl up. Okay, this was able to curl up, meaning that technically Meta tomorrow would say early on in the day, positivity can be had, but you do have CPI that can send you down. So just pay attention to that, just so you're aware. You have confirmed 2 hour divergence, but it is still very far away from the center line. So creating a negative trend here would take some time. What you'd really like to see is, hey, this could be some kind of flagging, and then you come down to this area, you bounce up for that lower high, reject off of the breakdown area, and then you start to head lower with some kind of head and shoulders. That's what I'd be looking for from Meta going forward. Also, quick question. Do you guys like the fact that we're, maybe we'll start premieres or something like that if you guys want. So you guys can chat in there while the video is happening. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. As we look forward, I don't necessarily think AMC has the best look at all. I think the only thing I can find is this 2 hour divergence, but I just want to see how that is really heading down here. So if that 2 hour can turn up, hey, we've seen actually, you know, I watched a report that a short seller got exposed just a couple of days ago. So if this is going to have a good move in it, the 2 hour is going to be able to turn up for AMC. If this leaks into next week, we will be updating that 476, that level that you need to see AMC get through to see something crazy. But the main thing I wanted to look at also was GME. The fact that the daily has turned down, a test of the 200 looks likely. You're right at the Bollinger Band, and that would create a triple divergence down here. So you could have triple divergence down here forming, and anytime a stock has triple divergence, you really want to pay attention if that confirms, right? It doesn't necessarily have the divergence, right? It's forming the divergence until that fully crosses, but I'd be paying attention to GME if that crosses, because if it ends up coming down and then crossing maybe late next week, that would be something to pay attention to, because we'll get you that updated level, and maybe GME sees something crazy. If it can break through, we're going to give you these updated levels every single Sunday, so make sure you're subscribed, and thank you guys so much for liking. Yeah, I'm glad you like the idea. If you guys like the idea of setting up premieres, I can even watch the video with you guys and maybe do some polls during, or comment back to people during that video, during the premiere. Or if you guys like doing it live, we can do that as well. We'll think about it. For the time being, though, I wanted to go into volatility. Volatility is going to be key going forward, okay? Because this could be some kind of double top. This could be some kind of cup and handle. So what I want to pay attention to is if we get good news, does the daily MACD cross down and do we get that retest of the 200? You notice we've really struggled to break back below that 200. So if we do break it, we have to pay attention. We could be getting more of a squeeze, not just a mini squeeze like I'm leaning towards. If this crosses, it could go into negative territory. So just pay attention to that. But as long as this 50 holds above the 200, that crash signal is there. So you want to be aware of reversal signals in these areas. For the time being, I just wanted to point out the 2-hour chart here. Something that I'd pay attention to as far as this week goes is the fact that we've come up to a key level. We've come up to this level here. We have a massive cup. If we create some kind of handle and curl up into positive territory on a 2-hour or a 4-hour, I would say, then I'd be paying attention because I think volatility might come in with some steam. So just pay attention. That might be something we're going to pay attention to for the trap scenario for if we head up early on in the day or going on throughout the rest of the week, or maybe it leaks on into next week a little bit. We're always just following the signals, having some fun trading back and forth, trading like water. Now, another reason that you have to be aware of a trap to the upside and something I think we can pay attention to, we'll talk about if the dollar drops here. If we see the market go down towards that daily expected move, and we see the dollar drop down as well because it is forming these divergences, well, then we would say, hey, that might be rigged behavior that is hinting, and especially if people are towards the put side, which we showed the max pain during the live video this morning. We showed it a couple times because we noticed there's like a 3.1 put to call ratio, meaning there are a lot of puts going into Friday. And then we look over at the PCC right now, and you notice people are still trying to short this move. Is very, very bad to short something when the trend is continuing to be bullish, and they use that as fuel to make stocks just go higher. That's what happened exactly the last time that we saw that cup and handle back in June. That's exactly what happened. We were talking about the same thing, so we're talking about it again now. So something we'll pay attention to. If the market goes down early on in the day towards that daily expected move, we'll see if this is coming down with it and see if that PCC remains high, like people are trying to call a crash. When everyone's trying to call a crash, it usually does not happen. But on the other side of that coin, you do have the dollar going up dramatically. Okay, so if the dollar continues to head up dramatically while the market heads up and the PCC maybe drops, as in people are switching to calls saying this is the big bull run into Christmas or something like that. I don't know what the narrative would be, but that is what I want to pay attention to. We'll be looking at all of these things live with you guys tomorrow morning. So the main takeaway here is the 30-minute can remain overbought for a long time. This is a bullish move. It is a great breakout. We just have to be aware that a trap seems, I don't know, I'm just feeling like a trap seems very likely tomorrow, but if it's not going to be a trap, then we're just not going to see these 30 minutes be able to curl back down. We're going to be seeing these be able to stay positive, and then if it is a trap, maybe we'll see some of that rig behavior head down towards a daily expected move and see that thing curl right back up. That's what I believe the market needs to do to remain healthy, and a lot of stocks need to do that to remain healthy at this point. So thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. Make sure to like this video, especially if you're someone that joins pretty often. Please like the video so that more people can see it. I'm sorry my editor was a little funky. It wouldn't even let me make a cut, so I have to figure that out, but hopefully that is something I can fix tomorrow. I hope you guys have a great night, and I'm gonna hop off, all right? I gotta go eat me some soup, all right? Eat a good meal. Yeah, eat a good meal. Have some fun tonight. Try not to look at too many charts. Just be prepared for tomorrow. Take your notes, and then let's get ready for CPI in the morning, all right? Peace.